Welcome to mypresidenttrump.us. Who do we have with us today?
Hi, I'm Lauren Spears. I'm a sophomore at Hillsdale College.
Now, I understand that it's kind of hard to be a Republican in school today. Have you ever been bullied because you're a Republican?
Yes, actually, I went to boarding school in D.C., and it's usually known as a Southern conservative high school, but as I got older in the school, it started to become much more liberal with a change of people who were running the school and the headmaster. So as that progressed, it got much more liberal, and it was almost scary to say that you were conservative. And when Trump got elected, it got very, very intimidating to say that you weren't upset about it. There were kids crying, liberals crying in my dorm room at boarding school. They were freaking out because President Trump got elected. Whereas other people couldn't say that they supported him because everyone was being so just harassed for even saying that they didn't have a problem with Trump. Even if they weren't supporting him, if you just didn't have a problem with him, it was unreal. And no one knows. So can I talk about where I go to college and
go
what I
right
learned?
ahead.
So I'm a major in economics at Hillsdale College, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the school, just as a
Gotcha.
yeah. But I'm learning a lot about Austrian economics, which speaks a lot about Bastiat and Mises and just Hayek. So it talks a lot about free trade and how you go about just being a conservative and what you value in your politics, private property, just free trade, all of this stuff that you weren't learned in normal school. And it's very interesting to just hear about this new policy of economics with the Keynesian economics and Austrian economics. It's very interesting to just hear this new wave of information that I never got in any other schooling of mine because it just wasn't a popular theory among classic liberals. And it's very interesting.
Do you feel like you've been discriminated against because of your political views?
So much. When I was 17 in high school, I remember one day I was going to my advanced U.S. history class, and on my way in, I walked in and I saw someone crying because Donald Trump had been elected. And I looked at her and I was like, that's the President of the United States. You're saying that it was rigged because of Russian intrusion, whereas if Hillary Clinton had been elected and someone had said it was Russian intrusion on her part, no one would have cared. Everyone would have been like, oh, it's a popular vote, it doesn't matter. But because it was Donald Trump and he was widely hated, even though he won the popular vote,
he won the Electoral College. He lost the popular vote.
Yeah, he won the Electoral College.
Which is the way we've elected every president.
And if you didn't have the Electoral College, liberals want states that aren't the size of California or New York to be pushed together and to get their electoral votes together. If you did that, it would destroy what the Founding Fathers asked for our country. They did this on purpose. It's incredible after you learn Austrian economics. It's incredible to look at the way Founding Fathers shaped our economy.
So you actually understand why we did the Electoral College and why the small states wouldn't consent to give up their power unless they had representation. It's like saying you can't hit a woman. Well, I'm bigger than her, why can't I hit her? Well, it's wrong. That's why you can't abuse a small state just because you're bigger than them.
Yes, it's so true. And I think one of the best representations of that, it's hard, there's so many.
Well, let's do a quick overview of who didn't win the popular vote but did win the Electoral College. John F. Kennedy did not win the popular vote, he won the Electoral College. Abraham Lincoln did not win the popular vote, he won the Electoral College in a three-way race. That's why we abolished slavery. Would you like to go back and get rid of the Electoral College and put slavery back in? Because without the Electoral College, Lincoln comes in third in that election, and nobody brings that up, but they want to get rid of the Electoral College every time a Republican wins.
It's very interesting. It's truly, truly very interesting.
Now let's talk about why Republican women are hotter and better to date than liberal women.
Well, I would say that Republican women have this mindset, we don't need to be handed everything with like women's rights and just the concept that women aren't strong enough to get on their own. They have to be given these rights by someone else. I feel like I'm in the position where I don't need someone to treat me differently for me to have the rights that I deserve. I can go about getting a job on my own right. I don't need some levy of who can get hired and who can't, and how many.
You don't need a lawsuit?
I don't need a lawsuit. I
Do
don't
you
need a
hate
lawsuit.
men?
No. Men are a part of our lives. It's biological. It was made to be that way, and it's always made to be that way.
Do you shower daily?
I do shower daily.
Do you shave regularly?
I do shave regularly.
Those are certain things that your average liberal woman does not normally do.
That's
Soap
very
and a razor is a sign of repression. Men, bad, unless they're trans men. Trans men, good. Hetero cis men, bad.
It's very interesting. It's so strange, too.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think, okay, so they've changed the human sexuality. So heterosexuals, they don't normally refer to. It's cis man, cis woman. I think that's a form of intimidation. You're trying to intimidate and discourage or discriminate against somebody. Oh, you're a cis man, you're a cis woman. What you're saying is you're straight, you're a heterosexual. But the term cis, I mean, from Star Wars, is the bad guy. So by calling straight people cis, you're saying that they're the bad guy.
I think it's very hypocritical and ironic for homosexual people to be putting heterosexual people down, because what they're going for is this total plane of equality. Whereas when you're putting someone else down, it's not equal. It's the same way with having a quota for rights for people to get into college. When you have all these racial quotas, it's almost more racist than not having the quota, because you're saying, oh, we have to have this many of this minority. That's not fair. Let them get in by their merits, because if they're truly qualified enough to get into this school, then they should be proud of that. They should be proud of how hard they've worked, not because of their skin tone.
Are you suggesting we judge people by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin?
Well, that's what the racial quotas are suggesting. They're suggesting that we let people in based on their skin color. We should be letting people in based on their merit. I would say that if I was an African American woman, I would much rather be let in on my merit based on my skin tone, not on my race. I want to be let in because I've worked hard and I've really, really worked to get here.
Do you think, given the way the country's going, say 100 years from now, if nothing changes, are white people going to be we're going to be a minority in numbers, and we're going to be discriminated against because you're white, you're straight, you're bad? I mean, it's already that way now. Imagine what it's going to be like in 50 years.
I understand where minorities are coming from when they have this bias, because there was a point in time where they were really struggling. But I also think it's hypocritical to flip the cards, whereas you want white people to then struggle through this. We should all be in the same boat right now, because if we keep going like this if we're basing our morals on hatred and violence against...
Payback.
Huh?
It's payback. They want to get paid back.
It's payback. And to a certain extent, I understand that. But also, if you want everything to be equal, our actions can't be based on violence.
Now, the Republican Party was born on a moral intolerance for slavery. We ended slavery. How is abolishing slavery racist?
Well, I don't think that we can technically claim that it was just us who abolished slavery.
Well, the Republican Party did abolish slavery, and the Democrats started the Civil War to keep Africans as slaves. So the Masses Party has now claimed that the party that freed slaves are racist, and the racists now claim that they're not.
Yes, but you were just talking about white people, so now we're over to the Republican Party.
Yep.
But if you just talk about white people abolishing slavery, obviously that's not true, just to get that in the open air. I mean, if you watch the movie Mississippi Burning, which is based on a true story, you're going to understand that that's not true.
Okay.
But, yes, with the Republican Party, they did want to abolish slavery, and you see that because most of the people in D.C. were coming down to these southern states and sending FBI agents to these southern states to abolish this act of slavery and to abolish this racial hatred. So... I don't know. I think that in the end it is white people who went to this extent at some point to abolish slavery. Obviously we had to be encouraged by all the suffering that we saw. And it's sad what happened to everyone. It's really tragic, truly.
So what are you going to do after college? What's your major? Smile.
I'm a political economics major from Hillsdale College, and I would love to be an economic analyst for a newspaper or work for a nonprofit or a think tank in DC. That would be ideal, as a Republican think tank.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else you want to say and wrap up?
I want to say that everyone, before they speak about Social Security or economic well-being or socialism in the United States, should take a class from Gary Wolfram on Austrian economics.
What do you think of the Green New Deal?
I don't know a lot about that, so I don't want to say anything because I don't want to embarrass myself. But I'm going to be upfront. I don't know a lot about that, but I know that AOC openly admitted that it might be an issue after she heard all the feedback from her, and I think that that should be a prime example.
What does $15 an hour have to do with the Earth's climate?
So I don't know what it has to do with the Earth's climate, but I do know that if you raise minimum wage, you're going to be affecting the people who are earning this minimum wage, because the people who are actually voting for a raise in minimum wage are the union workers. And fun fact, union workers aren't the people earning minimum wage. They're actually going to gain more from minimum wage being raised because their salary that is above minimum wage is also going to be raised. So these people earning minimum wage are going to suffer in the long term because there won't be as many job offers. You look at a simple supply and demand graph and you're going to see that the quality demanded and the quality supplied are going to be not at equilibrium. They're going to be decreasing. So the quality supplied is going to be much less than it would at a lower minimum wage cost. So it's very interesting. I really, really highly suggest an Austrian economics class for anyone who believes
So
this.
if you raise minimum wage, you've got to work those workers harder to justify the amount you're paying.
Exactly. And if you raise minimum wage, not as many jobs are going to be offered.
Thank you very much. Brilliantly said. Thank you. What's your name again?
Lauren Spears.
Thank you.